If you wondered why banks are so dang competitive right now, today I'm joined by Ron Butler of Butler Mortgage. And I love my conversation with Ron because he's a wealth of knowledge, but he's also fun to talk to. And he definitely has an opinion. So a couple of things we talk about are what happens when brokerages are quote unquote sold. What happens, like how does the money kind of flow? We talk about how to profit from your haters. Yes, Ron has them. And we talk about Ron's thoughts on industry awards. Hint, he's not a big fan. And also I pin Ron down and get him to share what he would do if he were to start over again today. Because often he'd just say, I'm going to do something different. Today, he actually said what he would do as a mortgage broker. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. You can connect with Ron on Twitter or X, as well as his YouTube channel. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Scott Peckford, and this is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. And we're coming up to our 10-year anniversary here pretty soon, which is pretty exciting. And Ron has been on numerous times and absolutely loved the discussions that we've had over the years. And so before we jump into this episode, though, I want to give a shout out to our title sponsor, Finmo. Finmo is a Canadian mortgage application, document collection, submission platform designed specifically for Canadian borrowers. It's very easy for borrowers to use. It's got cool features like smart docs, smart submission notes, and it's connected to Lender Spotlight, which is the best tool for searching rates and guidelines. You can check them out at lendesk.com/Finmo and get a demo. It's the best thing to do. Give it a test drive, see what you think. And most people that have checked it out absolutely love it. Check it out. And thanks again, and check out this episode. Hey, Ron, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Thank you. I think I've been on multiple times, and you are the original. You are the literal godfather of podcasts. So thank you.
I know. So I messaged you. Actually, you got an email from the other day. Hey, can you chat for 2 minutes? And I always say when the principal calls you down to the office, you're like, what do you want? Yeah, I'll call, chat. What's going on? And so, hey, thanks for chatting. There's a bunch of stuff kind of happening in the mortgage industry. And I always like to get your perspective because you know different people than me. I know some other different, and I think it'd be interesting. So I want to talk about some observations of things we see. I want to talk about haters and, people that don't like you. And let's see where this conversation goes. But so maybe let's just start off with what are some of the things that you're noticing? And then let's just go back and forth on that.
Sure. So the general problem in the mortgage business today, particularly in Ontario and to a lesser extent British Columbia, I think Alberta's doing great. I think things are probably okay in Quebec. But we are involved in cutthroat warfare on rates with banks. Really, I'd have to say that it maybe is the toughest 6 months and we're rate discounters, by the way. Obviously, we're people whose whole business model is based on having the lowest rate. And we have had attacks from big banks relentlessly this last 6 months. And by the way, even though this is a growing time where renewal business can be had, it can't be had if the people you're trying to take the renewal away from, if the incumbent lender will match every rate you offer. Okay,
right.
You're not going to take too many deals away,
or beat you because they don't have the same cost because it's for them it's just a signature of a paper and there's not origination costs and there's not even underwriting costs. There's no underwriter they're dealing with. I would imagine if there's no new money, it's just you could be a service person. So how and why do you think the banks are being so aggressive? Is it that they saw this big, what everybody's calling the gold rush, which turns out to be is the only people making money are a lot of the incumbent lenders and the people who sell things for the gold rush, not unlike the gold rush back in the 1800s. But talking about that.
So the 1800 gold rush and not the new software. No.
Yeah. Well, it could be that too. It could be that. Yeah, that's happened. I guess we just keep. Humans don't change. It's the same story with different characters, and we changed it out. But it's the same idea. I guess you're right.
All right. So let me give you the lowdown on why the big six banks are so competitive as they are today. So with a few exceptions, like 2008 and 2017, with a few exceptions, the big banks have seen a steady increase in their mortgage portfolios. And, obviously in 2020, 2021, 2022, spectacular, like absolutely spectacular growth in their mortgage portfolios. And every shareholder and every board member, because every one of these banks has a board of directors, right? And that's really the only people that the top executives report to is the board of directors. So they've all been happy. They've probably been happy for best part of 14 years with the mortgage portfolio. Like it just keeps growing. It's not the most profitable.
The arrears are not that high. It's just
absolutely. It's been nothing but good news. So in the last year and a bit, it's been, in some cases, some pretty shitty news. It's been, depending on the bank, it's been portfolio shrinkage. In other words, well, wait a second. Are you saying we have less mortgages on the books than we did a year ago? Oh my God, that's terrible. So there's your answer. It's the extreme difference in the situation versus over the last 14 years. It's a time when if we don't really go out and get new business, we will have a smaller book of mortgages. Because let's face it, every day a homeowner passes away, a homeowner sells, a homeowner marriage breakdown happens, a sale has to occur, the mortgage just gets paid out. It's the end of the 25 years. Here's the last payment. Goodbye. Okay. Right. And every day the mortgage portfolio shrinks, unless you're in a particular kind of variable. Every day the mortgage portfolio gets smaller as it amortizes. So if you're a bank and the top executives, the CEO, the top operational bosses look at it and say, wow, we're in danger of seeing our whole portfolio shrink. We got to make sure that doesn't happen. So we got to go out and we got to grab business. We got to fight in ways we never fought before. We got to take share away from other banks. And we have to make sure that none of our renewals leave. It was important to us before, but now it's goddamn critical. So there you go. That explains it.
It's kind of like, I don't know if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, but the Eye of Sauron, right? Whatever it stares at. And it's gone from now it's at the renewal side. And it's like, we are not going to let anything go on here that we can possibly keep. Because as you said, their portfolio shrinks. And so they're being far more aggressive than usual. Then
the Eye of Mordor is on renewals. Yes,
Eye of Mordor, not Sauron. I don't remember what it is. Anyways, I'm obviously I'm a geek, but not super geek. I'm like a mid-level geek here because I can't remember.
So I guess that puts me in as upper middle level geek.
You're super geek. I actually remember we were in cabins when we were at MCAP, and they said we were the nerd cabin, which was hilarious. But that's us.
But not wrong either.
It wasn't wrong. No. Okay, no. So I completely see that, and I think some mortgage brokers. Do you bow out on some when you realize that there's not how do you know when, okay, I'm not even going to participate and which ones are you, or do you fight on every one? I know that you fight on
We fight on every one, but at the end of the day, if you can get exactly the same rate, I've gone down to my lowest rate and the bank keeps matching or the existing lender keeps matching. And at the end of the day, the guy says, well, wait a minute, if it was even like a 5 basis points higher with my existing guy, it's just sign the form and we're done. I mean, you want all this paperwork and you want to do this. And then,
you want a blood sample and I got a peanut cup. And so, it makes sense.
What's my DNA like? Here, open your mouth with a swab. So yes, absolutely. If it's the same, why not just sign? Just sign.
Right.
Okay. So there you go.
Yeah. And then it only makes sense if they need more money, if there's a refinance opportunity, if they're doing something that strategically it makes sense that the term is up. Otherwise, they can be very challenging. So let's talk about in brokerages, because that's something you've been involved in this for a long time. I'm newer to the brokerage side. What are some of the things that you're observing on the brokerage side that kind of make you go, scratch your head a little bit?
Well, I was kind of shocked a bit that a small to medium network suddenly became a subsidiary of a much bigger network. Took me a bit by surprise. When I looked at the announcement, I thought, okay, I understand it. And part of the announcement is truthful, but there's something missing in the announcement. Okay. So let's just, do the math because we're in the brokerage business. So if you own a brokerage, and let's say there's 600 agents, and somebody approaches you, the brokerage owner, because remember, there's always a brokerage owner, and then all the agents work underneath. We're all familiar with that. So the owner is approached by another network and says, listen, why don't I give you $3 million and you come and join us? The $3 million is for you. It's not for the agents. It's for you. And then if you're that person, you might say, $3 million. Where do I sign? Okay, that might be your reaction. Or you might say, well, how about 3.5 and a little bit of negotiation? And then at the end of the day, you're confronted with, but in this new operation, I have to charge the agents a little bit more because that's the way this network works. Okay. I got to charge a little bit more. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. That's just the way some people make their money.
That's a business model.
Just a business model. All good. But the question that's rolling around in my head is, the brokerage owner's getting $3 million, the $4 million, whatever it is. The agents are being talked into, and maybe talked into is the wrong word, maybe motivated, maybe counseled, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to pretend that people are bamboozling their agents, okay? But the agents are being convinced that they should pay a bit more. And maybe it's not a lot. Maybe it's just a couple $100 a month and not a huge amount, but it's $200 more than it was. Okay.
Right.
And is not that extra pay, even though it's being described as, oh, but you're going to get better this, and you're going to get better software here, and you're going to get better, you're getting better deal management over there, and you're going to get a better system to transfer deals to show deals to the lenders. It's going to be all good. It's going to be all wonderful. Okay. And that's why it's a little bit more money. It'll make you more competitive, and it'll give you certain advantages. And maybe the agent says, yes, that's great. I could use some more advantages. I see the value. But the subtext also is that little extra money every month per agent actually financing the $3 million the brokerage owner got? Is that possible? Okay. So, and again, not saying it's wrong at all, just saying it's something to think about.
Right. Yeah. And I always often think when you see a brokerage or large group of agents get purchased, they're purchasing the volume and the activity of that sales force effectively. That's what they're banking on, the fact that they're not buying it for a relationship. That's great. But if there's no production, that's a bad deal for the buyer. But the actual volume is made up of all the individual brokers and people that were the 600 in that example you talked about. If it's it's made up of those people. They're the ones who actually did the work. And so I noticed the same thing too. For me, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a business model, makes sense. But is everything being disclosed, and is everybody understanding what game is actually going on here, or how the business model works? You kind of follow the money, right?
I realize that you have some unique elements to bricks. Mike, is I call it BRX or I call it bricks?
Bricks, yeah.
Bricks. Okay, so you got some unique elements to bricks. Is you believe in radical transparency, where you want to show your agents every little tiny element of the business model.
Yeah,
and that's great. Now, is it a business model for all other brokerages? Clearly not. I mean, no. Some brokerages keep things so secret that they're basically pretending there's no volume bonus. Okay, so
right. I don't think anybody gets. I don't know if they get away with that anymore. That would, I can't imagine, but maybe. I guess.
Who knows? We don't know. Yeah. Like, who knows? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've all seen a million different things in our day, right, that puzzle us about the way a brokerage can treat an agent. So, and we've also seen brokerages that do a fantastic job of transparency too. But yeah. It's a spectrum, right? It's a spectrum of like radical transparency, pretty goddamn dark. Okay, there's that, right? So it's a spectrum.
It's like North Korea.
Yeah, it's a bit like North Korea at night when you send the jet over and you take the picture of North Korea, and South Korea is all lit up, and North Korea is dark except for
you don't see anything.
The house that the leader lives in, right? That's it. That's the only thing lit up. So. But that is a question. It's a question that is open to discussion. And in the end of the day, though, every one of those 600 agents or 500 or whoever it is, okay, it doesn't matter. Could be 50, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, those agents with that brokerage, the transaction is happening, can investigate all the other options. They can investigate bricks. They can investigate all the other people that are out there. There's still a lot of different organizations people can go to. And it's a free marketplace. So unless you've signed a restrictive agreement, which there's hardly any anymore, there's a few that say 1 year, 2 year, whatever. But unless you've signed that kind of agreement, if you stop and say, well, this is going to be a change, so let me stop and look around and see what's better for me, then that's free enterprise too, and that's fair. Okay, there's very few contracts today in this business that really highly restrict you. I know you've seen some, and I've seen some. Okay, they're very problematic. Although, to be honest with you, in Ontario, they've launched a new law that says you can't do any of that anymore. You can't restrict If you leave a company, you could just start competing with them immediately. So that's a bit of a change. But it's still a free system. You can still, but not everybody will look. Right? Not everybody. So there's still a lot of people get their first mortgage offer from the bank and just sign on the dotted line. They call the bank,
and the bank is like ka-ching. It finances the other person who's grinding you down, and then they're like, okay, great, we made it off this person, and we'll give it to the other person.
I would agree. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So talk to me about haters. And so as a guy, you're pretty vocal, and you probably have some people that hate you. You got people that love you too. I've heard a quote one time, there's no money in the middle. The middle being that if you're just, he's okay, like nobody's going to remember you. But if you're pushed, and you see this in politics, it's extreme on both sides now. I think it's a little crazy, but if you look at history, that's pretty normal. But talk to me about does it bother you when you have people that hate on you? Do you laugh about it? Like, do you sleep at night? What's going through your head when you see somebody who's like, yeah, that Ron guy, I hate him? Or I'm curious.
Well, it's a great question, because obviously there's a lot of social media followers with me, right? And I put out content every single day. So there's commentary every single day. If you read the replies, you read the comment section, there's comments. There's comments all the way from, you fat bastard, you should be like deported from Canada. You should lose your citizenship. and there's that, we can get that. That can happen. So you can get, because in social media, it's anonymous, right? It's an avatar. It's somebody, it's like a half moon with a banana coming out of its head. So the name is like, XYZ 1645. So, it's not traceable. People get very bold when it's anonymous, right? Everybody's very aggressive when it's anonymous.
Very brave. And
very brave.
When they don't have to look you in the whites of your eyes and say it.
Very, very brave. Yeah. So main thing is, it doesn't bother me, because I've discovered something about 6 years ago called a block button. So you can go on any type of social media, press a button, and those people can never see your information again, ever. They're gone.
Right.
Okay. And I got, like, one guy asked me, he says, do you have a lot of those on Twitter? I said, do you look at your analytics and see how many you got? I said, yeah, I got over 6,000 people blocked. Okay. Like, I'm blocking multiple times a day.
You know what? This is something I did not know. I knew that there's people that have you blocked, but I didn't know that you had blocked people too. So,
yeah.
It works both ways.
Of all the people in Canada who blocked me, I got more people blocked than they do. Okay,
you're blocking way more people than being blocked.
Way more people. So So that's an answer for peace of mind. But you also actually still have to stop yourself from responding. Like when you see something that's just like blatant total insanity, you've just got to hold yourself in and say, no, don't do it. Don't respond. Don't do it. Okay.
Do you have like a gap or something? You remember Don Cherry had a 7-second gap between live news. You're kind of like, Don, we need a 7-second gap for you. It's like, don't push the send button.
You just have to and it's true. It's all true. I have sort of something like that. Like I've typed up half of the response, like, yeah, you dirty guy. And then like, I'm almost ready, but I got a few more sentences. And I said, stop. Like, this is a banana with eyes you're arguing with. Okay. Like, I mean, what's wrong with you? Don't do that. That's stupid.
That's so funny.
Like just delete it, block them, done. Okay. So yeah, and that you can sleep easily at night. Every time somebody says something you don't like, you just block them. Like Elon Musk was a little bit opposed to that. He said, I don't think block should be allowed. I think it should be pure free speech on Twitter, on X. You should be able to say whatever you want. Nobody can block you. But then, of course, in the App Store, if you want to be able to open an app in the App Store and download an app, part of their rules for social media is you must include a block. You must include it. So
I think it keeps things simple, because there are some crazy people out there. And also there are people who can use bots it may not even be a person that you're dealing with. It no different than, hackers attacking your software behind the scenes. They can attack you personally with not even real accounts and stuff. And so I feel like, it probably makes sense that you can have a block button. So
you just use it a lot. That's all. Just use it a lot.
Okay. So if you're going to go there, and, I remember hearing a story about Elvis how his manager used to sell "I hate Elvis" buttons to people. So so not only did he sold Elvis merchandise and he made his money, and then some people are like, I hate that guy, I hate that Elvis guy. He's stealing other people's music or whatever their story was. He's like, no problem. Here's some badges. If you really hate him, why don't you buy these? And meanwhile, Elvis is making money either way. It's like, who cares? It really didn't matter. And you remember Mortgage Jake? He's a great guy. I remember him telling me, because he would be on Twitter with you or X, whatever it is now, and he'd be fighting with people. He said to me, Scott, my customers are not the ones I'm arguing with. They're watching. They watch me go back and forth, and then they reach out and say, hey, Jake, you seem to know what you're doing. Can you help me? But he's like, I don't care about that, because the person I'm fighting with is never going to be my customer. It's the people that are watching it. Do you think what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it is. And yes, a shout out to the late, great Jake Brovitz, who was a fantastic
awesome
broker and an even better person. He was just one of the very best guys you'd ever want to meet. And it's a real tragedy. And I think about Mortgage Jake. It's just like every time you lose somebody, you think about them a lot and you think about them a little less. But I still think about him. I still think about him once in a while. This is how great a guy he was. So to that point, it circles back to what you said about the market, like how, if you're using social media, how should you view it? And Jake correctly said, the people who like me see me fighting with the haters, and they say, yeah, good for you, Jake. You're a fighter. I like that. Okay. And that got him business. Why not? He was a great, great, great broker. So that brings us to the concept of how you want to present yourself in social media. So if you have to have an opinion, because why does anybody care? Like, seriously, if you put out a lot of social media stuff and all your output is, oh, look, it's Halloween. Okay, well, we all knew it was Halloween.
We already knew that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, we already knew that. Oh, look, the Bank of Canada has changed prime rate. Yes, we all knew that. Every goddamn one of us knew that. Okay, so if you just want to have this innocuous, boring sort of announcement driven, or maybe the worst of all, the worst thing you can put on social media, in my opinion. Oh, look, I just won this award. I just won this award. Look at this. Look at it. Come on. I've just been named one of the 300 youngest Western Canada-ish, but also live closer to the Yukon and only drive a Tesla. Famous person in the mortgage business. Look at me. It's a very, very small group, but I'm the most famous one in it. So when you put that ridiculous bullshit about awards, I mean, sweet Jiminy crickets, that's crazy. But so does anybody really care? Oh, look, they won an award for, what was it? Oh, youngest, but not long in the business and drives a certain kind of car. And that's why no, I don't want to talk to that person. So to your point, you have to have an opinion.
Yeah.
You have to have a consistent opinion. You have to present it in an interesting way, and it has to be meaningful. Not everybody has to agree with you, because here's the truth. Very, very famous quote by Michael Jordan. When a lot of basketball players came to Michael Jordan and says, Michael, we never see you pushing for Black Lives Matter. We never see you being really strong on the front of discrimination and, what our position should be within the basketball world. Why are you this way? And he said, well, that's really easy. Everybody buys my sneakers. I don't want to piss anybody off. Okay.
Right.
Now, that works if you're Michael Jordan. Okay, because that's the greatest basketball player of all time. Sorry, Shaq. Sorry, Kobe. Sorry, everybody. But one man's opinion, greatest of all time. And
let the haters pile on.
Yeah, they can pile on now. But but in reality, when you are that person who has sold the most sneakers in the history of the world, then you do have to think about not making anybody mad. But in the mortgage business, which is so broken up, it's so diffuse, it's like, you could be unbelievably successful with a 1% market share. Like, seriously, if you're a mortgage broker, you can corner 1.5% of the mortgage business in Canada. You are literally the king or the queen.
You're printing money.
You're printing money. So I don't need to be like Michael Jordan, because I don't need everybody to want to buy my sneakers. I just need people who like what I say enough, even if, it's very specific and it's got a particular viewpoint. If they like it well enough and they come and they say, "Hey, do you do mortgages too?" Because I get that, actually, believe it or not. I get like, do you also do mortgages? I know you talk about mortgages a lot. Do you do mortgages? Yes, we do.
Right.
We can help. So if enough of them come to you, that's more than enough. You're going to be fine. And if 60% of the people hate you, if the number of the 40% who like you is big enough, who cares? It's a big enough number, you're going to be fine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually. And yeah, back to the awards thing. I mean, I think I've had some words about awards, and I feel like they're, for me, someone else telling me that they think I'm doing a good job, a company that really doesn't know anything about the mortgage industry. We're just a vertical for them, and they're going to give me some, and I'm supposed to act like, oh, thank you for this. But oh, by the way, buy my table and come and buy, your magazine covers. And I'm like, that's just, I don't, it's not been something that I personally value. I'd rather my agents, if I think about anything, I'd rather my agents be like, hey, they're focusing on what we need and not spending, for me to go to the award ceremony, it's like $10,000, whatever, right? I'm like, the question I ask myself, this is what I always is like, is this going to help my agents make more money or help them with time? If the answer is no, I'm like, why am I doing it? And I don't see how me getting an award for my ego does anything to help our agents. Sure, consumers don't know. There is a marketing play here. I get that consumers, just like you see the car companies, JD Power and Associates, best leaning seat, best tilt in the seat. I don't even know who JD Power is. Everybody seems to have an award for something. Like if you look at the car companies, and they slap them on there, and they probably pay a lot of money to JD Power for these awards.
Tons.
And yet we still we don't even question it. We just go, oh, I guess like we don't. So I get why there's a utility to it, but I personally find the whole thing just not. It just grates on me on my level. Like it doesn't seem like it's integrity. That's what it feels like to me, and that's why I've avoided those. I avoided a lot of those things.
But, well, I think a lot of the public realize it too. When you're trying to push on your website or push on your, pictures in your office. I always love the wall of fames in offices, right? Like there's 56 different plaques and trophies and all these things pinned up around the office, and and pictures of you with Bill Clinton, or that might not be so good now. Okay, no, you're going to be a lot better off in a picture with the Hawk Tua girl than you are with Bill Clinton now. That'll be my opinion. Okay, that'll get you a lot.
Who's the Hawk? I don't even know who that is. Like, so obviously
Hawk Tua girl. Okay, no. All right. So as soon as you get, everybody else knows. you gotta. As soon as you get off here, you gotta go on Instagram Reels, or you gotta go on TikTok, and you gotta just search Hawk Tua. That's HAWK, separate word TUAH. Okay. And right now, this woman is uniting America. This young lady is uniting America, and she is, for this weekend, she's the most famous person on the internet by far. She's bigger than the Kardashians, bigger than all of them. So that's the girl. Take a look at that video, and you'll understand who Hawk Tua is. But like my point about all these pictures, awards, plaques, statuettes, everything else, like, sure, you can show it off. And I guess the concept is that you're trying to instill confidence from the customer that you are this great person. But at the end of the day, if you do great work, and in our case, we're fortunate, we have a great rate and do great work and do your best and, make sure that the customer ends up with the best deal humanly possible. I would think that at the end of the day, the customer would say, yeah, that worked out for me. They don't need to be the young guns of 2024. Okay. I mean, right. They don't need, all right. I just like the job they did. So that's what we gotta hope.
Yeah. And I think one thing you've done a good job of is monetizing attention. So what you're really doing but not monetizing it in this Hawk Tua girl I pulled up. I'm not going to click on the videos yet because I'll wait till after. Otherwise, but
great video. Great. Okay.
I can't believe I didn't even see this, but obviously I'm living in a cave or something. So, but essentially what you've done, especially with your Twitter account, is that you're there, you have an opinion. It's not going to be something everybody's going to agree with, but you're going to share your opinion. It's an educated opinion. You're not just steaming. Like, one thing I find about you is you have an opinion on stuff, but it's a thoughtful opinion. You have it's not just, hey, this person.
I try to have a thoughtful opinion.
There's an opinion that's educated, and then you share that. You get attention from it, which is then now turned into opportunities for your brokerage. and for your company and stuff. So I have a last question I'll leave you with is this. So if you were, and I think I may have asked you, but if you're starting over today, if you were a young gun and what would you do? And you had this whole thing in front of you, and you can't say you're going to quit the mortgage industry because I can't let you wiggle out of this. What would you do if you were brand new? Because you might say, I'm not doing this at all. I'm going to do something else.
I'm definitely going to do something else. I'll tell you that for sure. Okay. So, because, here's the one thing I've been thinking a lot about lately, Scott. You and I, we've all picked a business where we are going to have deadlines for the rest of our lives, right? Like that's the one thing about this business is that now somebody might say, oh no, there's deadlines in every business. Okay, really? I mean, if you're just cranking out cars out of the factory, you just got to make sure a certain amount leave every day. I mean, there's not a certain car's got to start at the beginning and it's completely changed. It comes out the end. It's always the same car. So when you have a deadline every single day, multiple deadlines every single day, you're basically, no matter how good your systems get, and I know people who have great systems and great assistants and great, a great support staff and a lot of people helping out to get a deal closed. But at the end of the day, something can go wrong or wrong enough that the client says, I need to talk to Scott. God damn it. I got to get this solved and I want to talk to Scott. And sooner or later, you got to take that call and you're shaking your head saying, wait a second, I was trying to get out. I promised my kid I'd take him for a driving lesson. I got to talk to this guy before I can get out of here. I mean, like that happens, right? I mean, know, and I know that happens in our business. So that kind of a business is not necessarily the most perfect business, but look at made both of us a great living and a lot of fun and we're in it. But that's one thing I think about a lot. So what would I tell the person now? All right. So first of all, I'd say if anybody calls you about Google ads, just hang up. Like the minute the word Google ads comes out of their mouth, just hang up. Okay. Like just, or any text comes into you, hey, would you like to have 30 perfectly qualified leads come into your inbox every single morning? Just type no and screw yourself. Okay, that's all you do. Okay, because so here's an interesting thing that we've now discovered. So SEO, which is site optimization, so that's getting people to organically come to your website, is doomed. That's like completely doomed because AI is just going to blow it apart. We know that all this kind of Google ads, Google ads on Instagram, ads everywhere, that's got no future. Absolutely no future because, again, AI is going to blow that to bits. Okay, it's just nothing going to be left of it. So there's even a suggestion that anything to do with Google is doomed. Like the way people find out information today is going to change so radically through AI that how's that going to work? And the crazy part about AI is it only gives you one answer. Like you ask it, hey, GP chat .78, so you're just like 10 years from now, and it basically jumps out of the computer and just, smooths your face, and so we really
it tells you that it loves you and that you're a good. You're like, wow.
No, and this is who you should use for a mortgage broker. Okay, so it just gives one answer. There's no answer. There's nobody to scroll through. You don't have to scroll through and look at anything. Those AI apps just give you one answer. Oh, this is the best place to go based on everything I know about you, Scott. This is the one you want. Okay,
right.
So what's the only answer? The only answer is content by which you draw attention to yourself in a different way. Like whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on whatever the next future iteration of TikTok is, whether it's something, because here's one thing for sure. People are never going to stop watching things. Like as long as there's a human, they're interested in a story, whether that story is a dance or that story is a joke or that story is information.
Talk to a girl.
Absolutely. Okay. People are interested in stories. So if you could be part of that, if a tiny sliver of the public see your story, that'll help a lot. Okay.
Right.
But now I know that disappoints some people because there's a lot of people in our business who say, well, you know what? I'm a bit of an introvert. I could never do what Scott and Ron and some of these other guys do. Okay. I could never do it. I mean, I just don't have that in me. But it doesn't matter. You can go a different direction. You could actually, well, I don't know what that direction is because I've only been using this one, but there's other ways, but still, whatever you do, just never pay for a Google ad, never pay for an Instagram ad, never pay for any kind of ad. Either get on the phone, do Game of Phones, or Go out
content
and meet some people
and
content.
Content would be still a good try. I think about that with this whole AI thing. So my daughter has Snapchat, which all the kids nowadays have it, and they gave them, you get an AI bot. So she made hers into like a boyfriend. So it's not her boyfriend, but it's sort of like, so she can have a chat with, and she made it into a boy avatar, whatever. And so she can ask it questions. And she told me some of her friends in school have used it to help them write papers. So if I've got this AI Tamagotchi, whatever they call that thing, that I have from the age of 14 till I'm 24, and it's helped me get through high school and college, university. And then I'm like, well, I need a mortgage. I'm just going to ask that. I'm going to ask my AI buddy, hey, what do you think? Oh, you know what, Ron, based on, I know you, like you said, know you really well. Here's what I recommend. And so whoever that gets fed up to is whoever is fed in there is going to get at the top of the pile. And so
the only other hope you have is that you're doing a dance on TikTok and somehow the mortgage part comes out. That's what you watch that separately, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, I think that's good. This is awesome, Ron. I always love talking to you, brother. And I'm glad that we got to connect. Thanks for
I think that we were thoughtful enough about the way we expressed everything that we will get no lawyers' letters. Yeah, I think we managed it. Okay.
I think so.
We managed it. Okay.
Well, I never know with you, man. Whenever I have you on, I'm like, okay, sign here. I'm just kidding. Okay, thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Scott. Take care.
Hey, thanks again for listening to this episode. Hopefully you were inspired and had a laugh. I went and looked up that Hawk Tuah girl. It's absolutely insane. I can't even wrap my head around that. But Ron is always at the forefront. I guess Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, is always going to find all of the trends first. And Ron is a very heavy user of Twitter, so I'm not surprised by that. And I think that, one of the things I always love about Ron is that he's willing to share his opinion, but also he's informed. He's not just making stuff up. He knows a lot of what happens behind the scenes and, in front and behind the scenes in the mortgage industry. And I always find these conversations very, very insightful. Yeah, if you want to check me out, you can go. We've got a company called Bricks, ybricks.com. Check that out. Thanks again for listening. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the answer. Thanks again for listening, and make it an outstanding day.